What is up, YouTube? We are back. Talk about a little college football today. Get our little reactions from week three, and it was a very interesting weekend. Some things went out the way we thought they would. Some things were shocks. So let's dive right into it because we got a couple games. We got a couple good games to talk about. So we'll start out with the obvious, obvious and kind of quick hitting ones. So State ended up beating Wake Forest on Thursday night, and I will say the State team has been very resilient. They went down 14 nothing. I mean, Wake Forest took that opening kickoff to the house. They stopped State and immediately score again. It was quick 14 nothing. We're like, uh-oh. And even at halftime, it was 24-14. State was down 10 points. Everyone was like, they've been here and done this. Can they still do it? Sure enough, they still do. In that second half, that defense absolutely clamped up Wake Forest. Wake Forest couldn't do a whole lot in that second half. It was all State from there. So very surprised at State still being able to respond to slow starts and get back into games and keep winning them. I mean, they're 3-0, so they're starting to look like a potential dark horse in the ACC, especially because of how that defense is and the progression of how CJ Bailey's been playing. He's starting to look more and more like a mid to upper tier collegiate quarterback. So very interesting to see how they're taking him and helping him progress through just being able to make reads, know when to throw, know when to run, making checks at the line. So all around good outing from NC State, and yeah, let's go ahead and get the bad out of the way. Duke got absolutely, I don't want to say demolished, but they got thrown into a fist fight against Tulane. They went down quick, 24-3. Kind of started coming back and then ultimately lose by a touchdown difference at the end of the game. And I think what makes me really mad about the whole thing is the fact that on paper it shows, even on the field, it shows Duke is a very good team. They're very productive. Darren Mensa going out throwing for another 300 yards, throwing out 2, 3 touchdowns. He had the pick. But the talent flashes on the screen for Duke. The only thing that concerns me is coaching, especially on the defense side of the ball. You let Ratzliff get 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 of them on the same play, back to back drives. Just simple quarterback read option. And he's just able to walk right in. So, especially on a defense that I thought was going to be easily top 15 in the country, top 5 in the ACC for sure. And I'm I'm more impressed than I am embarrassed, especially by Tulane. Tulane came out ready to fight, and they were the more physical team, and they came prepared to play. Whereas Duke didn't. Duke, I don't know if it's a Manny Diaz situation that's going on. I don't know if it's whoever's the DC. They need to figure it out on the defense side of the ball because they're not really playing physical at all. Couldn't make tackles. The pursuit angles were questionable. They didn't force their first turnover that they actually got to keep until the second half of week 3. Up until that point, hadn't forced a turnover. And what happened when they first forced that turnover? Duke immediately scored like 2 plays later. And that's what started making it a ball game again. So with that, I think the defense has a lot of question marks. I don't know about talent per se, but can they be physical? Are they ready to get into actual fist fights? And schematically, I don't know if it's the coaching or what, because the talent is flashing on the screen. Now to the offense. Darren Mensa is a really good quarterback. I still believe that fully. His weapons, I think he's still got really good weapons. I think the issue is they realize they got a Ferrari of a quarterback in the backfield who can make a lot of throws and is very accurate with the ball, and they got weapons that can make plays. But at times, that offense shoots themselves in the foot, especially on penalties. Penalties will kill them. penalties, slight miscues, and I also think they're not running the ball that much. And over the last couple of years, Duke likes to hang their hat on being able to run the ball. And I think that's what had helped them become more of a efficient offense was the ability to run the ball that would then open up the pass game. Because last year, a majority of the good things that happened on offense was because they ran the ball and stuck to it so well, it would open up passing lanes. So going in this year, I'm thinking, well, if they can run the ball, just like they have the last couple years, and then open up those passing lanes for a much more efficient quarterback with arguably more speed and talent on the outside, this offense should be up there. And the numbers suggest they are outside of the scoring department. All night, Duke was able to go up and down the field in Tulane, but they couldn't punch it in for 6 until the second half. But by that point, you're already fighting an uphill battle. And it doesn't help when your special teams is also kind of selling. You got a muff snap on a field goal attempt. You got 2 missed field goals. One of the field goals was missed because you had 2 back-to-back false start penalties. So you go from a 34-yarder all the way back to a 44-yarder, and then the kicker, Polino, pushes it to the right. So it's just the offense is getting in their own way. Those are things that you would think coaching would be able to clean up, but we saw that issue against Illinois. We've now seen it against Tulane. Now Duke is getting ready to go into ACC play with having to play NC State this weekend in Durham. I'll give my thoughts on that game whenever I get to my predictions video, but I'm definitely getting worried about this Duke team. They're 1-2 after they look like a team that could be a dark horse in the ACC. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's full panic mode in Durham, but we're getting closer and closer each and every game. At least with the coaching wise. I think the talent is there, but I don't know. I don't know. So now let's get into I got something going on my eye. I got something in it. Let's get on to the bigger matchups. So we'll talk about this one because we got this one right and it wasn't really that much of a game. LSU Florida. LSU wins by 10. Florida, LSU really should have won by more. But Florida, like we've said, still has a very good defense. But that offense, dude, I don't know what they're doing. Can't run the ball. So they're forcing their quarterback, DJ Lagway, to throw the ball. And he threw multiple interceptions. And when I say multiple, he threw 5. He threw 5. And I understand LSU is also a great defense. But some of them, LSU didn't even have to work for, really. DJ Lagway was just iron receivers, and the safeties were just, they were playing zone coverage a lot. And that middle field safety is just reading Lagway's eyes and just going to where he's looking. And Lagway's throwing them like right to the safeties, which was the big turn in the game because LSU was able to capitalize off of a couple of those turnovers. Not all of them, but a couple of them to get that lead, keep it, and win it. Nussmeier still isn't fully impressing me. He's still able to win these close games and make enough plays as compared to some of the other quarterbacks, especially Lagway. I'm still interested to see what's going to happen when they play another true top talent like a Alabama who's been bouncing back, a Georgia, Tennessee, teams like that. So I'm interested to see what will happen on that side. But if I'm Florida, I might be coming for Napier's job, honestly, because I do think they have the talent to be good, but they just can't. They can't execute to save their lives, and it keeps showing back-to-back weeks. I mean, that offensive line couldn't block USF, and they really did not block LSU. So it's only uphill from here. They have one of the tougher schedules in the SEC. So we're going to see what the team's made of, but I don't have very much high hopes for Florida now. Speaking of USF, their game against Miami went a little more shocking than I thought. Miami wins the game I thought USF would keep it within the 17-point spread. They did not. Miami just went out there and had utter dominance, 49-12. Carson Beck and that team actually might be for real. I had my questions on Carson Beck. He looked good against Notre Dame, but I was like, can he do it again? And he did. The running game was running well. The receivers are out there making plays. But that defense, that Miami defense, is leaps and bounds better than what they were last year. And it's showing. And that will probably be the biggest factor for them the rest of the regular season, conference championship times, and the playoff. If they're able to keep doing what they're doing now, I'm not saying they're necessarily in that tier of national championship, but they're starting to creep their way into that tier for sure. USF, I mean, I'm not going to say you're out of it. You do still have two back to back ranked wins. And I think after this, your schedule lightens up. You still could handle business and possibly be in that mix to grab one of those lower seeds just because of some of your big wins. But I mean, if you're USF, they're building something over there. They're not ready to compete with these upper tier teams yet, but they're starting to trend in the right direction. I will give them that. Next, we got Georgia Tennessee. This was, I would have said game of the week, but there's another game that was even better in my opinion. But we have Georgia Tennessee. We picked Georgia. Georgia wins the game, but in a thriller. So quickly, Tennessee jumps out to a 21-7 lead, and we're like, uh-oh. Tennessee's never scored more than 17 against Georgia. They already got 21, and it's not even the end of the first half. Georgia claws their way back in. They go out and get a lead. Tennessee's starting to look a little stagnant. Throw up a prayer to Braswell. Braswell comes down with it. All of a sudden, momentum's back on Tennessee's side. They get a stop on Georgia. Tennessee starting to move the ball. They get stopped, and then from there, it's just back and forth. And with, I think it was right there, around 2 minutes left in the game, Georgia's down. They throw up a fourth down prayer. Gunnar Stockton to the back corner of the end zone. Receiver goes out and makes a play. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow. They got that in their bag, actually. This was the best I think either offense has really looked, especially against these type of defenses. Tennessee had a shot to win this game in regulation. Kicker shanked it at home. Go to overtime. Georgia handles business. Wins by a field goal. But this was a classic SEC matchup that we were ready to see. And just because Tennessee loses a game, I don't think their season's over. I understand they still got some tough games on the schedule, but if they play like this against some of these other teams, they got a real chance to get back in the playoff and probably be better than what they were last year. Joey Aguilar had a couple throws that looked bad, but I also do think first time ever playing in a game this big against this type of talent, it's going to have that effect on you. But all in all, I thought he, for his first SEC start, played decent. And I feel like the more he does it, the more comfortable he's going to get. And I was surprised at how well the offense was able to move the ball, especially against this Georgia defense. So I'm sure Kirby is going to address that with the defense. But if I'm Tennessee, you hate to lose, but this does kind of show you where you're at with this roster, where you got a chance to make a little noise as the season goes along. But that was a great game. The next game, I'm not going to get to I'm going to save the two big ones at the end. So this one we touched on a little bit. South Carolina, Vanderbilt. South Carolina loses 31-7, but I know a lot of people are going to throw it on here, this little asterisk. I'm not necessarily, but I am going to acknowledge it too because it is a big point of it. Lenore Sellers did get hurt, did get taken out of the remainder of the game, and at that point, I believe it was still 7-7. And from that point, Vanderbilt just went and ran with it. But between Sellers getting hurt and Nick Harbor, we realized how one-dimensional this offense gets really quickly. and it was just, I feel like for a South Carolina fan, it was very frustrating, especially because you have a lot of high hopes going into this year. I'm not saying the season is necessarily over, but you got to hope that your two of your main offensive guys can get healthy quick, so that way you can get back out there and get after it. So that's just, it's unfortunate for him, but it's the way that it works. The next one we're going to talk about is the biggest upset of the weekend, in my opinion. Number 12 Clemson going to Atlanta, Georgia to play Georgia Tech, and they lose by a game-winning fire drill field goal by Georgia Tech. I'm surprised that they lost, just because I feel like a lot of things would have had to have gone Georgia Tech's way, but those things happen. Georgia Tech's defense came out ready to play. That offense was able to push around Clemson enough to set up some big plays to capitalize and be in the game. I mean, even though Georgia Tech had to kick a game-winning field goal, Clemson had to go and score to tie the game with right around 3 minutes left. So it's not like Clemson was in, then Georgia Tech had to claw their way back. No, Georgia Tech was in control for a lot of this game. And now we're looking at a Clemson team that's 1-2, hasn't really put a whole lot of good film out between the loss at home to LSU, which we all kind of gave a pass. It was a top 10 matchup between the two. It was toss up. It was only a one score difference, week one. Okay. But then you go down 16 nothing at home the very next week against Troy and had to claw your way back to beat them only by 11 at home. And then you got this on the road again, losing to Georgia Tech. 1-2, Clemson. Klubnik's not looking close to what he has the last handful of years. Wesco's still going out there and making plays, but the defense is still good. But it's like you're looking at all this talent on paper. There's several guys that are going to be future first round picks, and it's, I don't, at this point, I don't know if it's just a mentality issue, if it's a coaching issue, or if it's a lack of confidence because of what you've been playing like the last couple of weeks. But Clemson's in a real tough spot for a team that a lot of people, including myself, thought were going to be the top of the ACC, going to be fighting in the playoffs. Now it's, are they even good enough to be in that ACC championship and get in at this point? I don't know. With the way Miami's look, the way Florida State's look, I mean, heck, Georgia Tech's got an opportunity. There's a couple other ACC teams on the rise. I don't. The stock in Clemson is going down drastically and quickly, and I don't blame a lot of people. I mean, I'm losing faith in Clemson, which is insane to even say because since I can remember, I remember when Clemson was on the rise and then they were at their peak, competing for national championships and winning national championships. So to see this drastic of a fall off is kind of insane, honestly. I just, but all the credit to the world to Georgia Tech for going out there and getting after it and getting the win when they needed it. Now if I'm Georgia Tech, you can't just sit on this and ride high. You got to keep going out there and putting out your best game plans week in and week out, because now you got a chance to possibly make noise in the ACC, and they could be that dark horse that gets in there. They could be that SMU that was last year, because SMU has not looked impressive after they were ranked in the top 20 going into week one, losing to Baylor and then only winning by 10 this past week. It's just all around the ACC, outside of your couple surprise teams, has not put out a lot of good film the last couple weeks. So that's not good if you're an ACC fan. But I guess it's still partially early. There's time to ride the ship and reel it back in, but some teams are going to have to do it quicker than others. And then we're going to go over the last game, which was a thriller in South Bend. We had Notre Dame and A&M, number 8 versus number 16, and this game gave us almost everything we wanted besides defense. There was not a whole lot of defense in this, but A&M comes out on top with a 1-point win. Down to the final seconds, Marcel Reed had to help make a play, throw up a jump ball to his tight end late. Old boy comes down with it, and this was a heck of a game to watch. I thought both sides offensively looked great. Defensively, wasn't really a whole lot to show for it. The biggest play that defense made was Notre Dame. They got a blocked punt early in the game, was able to score off of it. So that's when a lot of people went, oh, but man, it was going this way. Not really. A&M was able to come back and answer almost immediately. And from there, it was just guns blazing on both sides. Jeremiah Love showed that he is the best running back in college football. He looked good. They gave him the ball for good reason. C.J. Carr looked solid. A&M looked solid. But if you're Notre Dame, this is going to be tough for your playoff chances. You're 0-2 to start the year. Both of your losses are to ranked teams. Probably now two teams that are probably in the top 10. Can't remember where A&M is at in the rankings now, post week 3. But Notre Dame doesn't have a whole lot on their schedule to help get them into the playoff. Whereas A&M, this is a great win for them. Beat number 8 on the road right before you start SEC play. I mean, they were almost knocking on the door last year. Now the offense looks like they're ready to compete, but I'm sure Elko, going into these next couple of weeks, is looking to address the defense because the offense is doing their part, but the offense has had to bail them out in a couple games already. So they need to ride the ship and get the defense where they need to be in order to actually make these pushes. If you're Notre Dame, I mean, continue to play out. Maybe some things will go your way as we get later on to the year, but that defense does not look like what they once were last year. That offense still doesn't look exactly like how they did last year. It's kind of more evolved. They're able to throw the ball, I feel like, a lot more efficiently with C.J. Carr back there, but the running game is still dominant with Jeremiah Love. But I don't know what's really going to happen with Notre Dame just based off of who all they still have to play. They don't have a whole lot of big games. It's not like they can start 0-2 and then they got 2 potential top 5 matchups and could go in and beat them. And then we're like, okay, there's kind of a wash from the 2 early losses to the 2 late season wins over big teams. They don't have that built into their schedule this year. And those are really the main games, but I am going to touch on 2 other ones that we didn't really talk about last week, but just, a little praise and concern for one of each. So, Oregon, Northwestern. Oregon beats Northwestern by 20. It was 34-14, and Oregon still looks like, in my opinion, probably the best team in college football. They looked like it last year, but this team looks a little different. I almost feel like I trust their passing game a little more than I did last year. Deontay Moore looks like a really good quarterback. He's trending to be a top-end quarterback in college football. And that defense is still playing lights out. They're recruiting at a high level, and it's showing on the field. And they got arguably the best wide receiver, too. So it's just a lot of things are going up in the right direction for Oregon. Now they got 2 weeks to prepare before they have to go to Penn State. That's going to be a great game to watch between 2 top 5 teams. That's going to be a great game to watch. That's when we're going to find out a lot about Oregon and a lot about Penn State. That's going to be a big game to open up Big Ten play for them. And then this is the underwhelming. Texas hosted UTEP. And they only won 27-10. Arch Manning, outside of running the ball, did not look good. Now we're starting to question, is Arch Manning overrated? I mean, on the day he was 11 for 25. He averaged 4.6 yards a throw. He had a touchdown and an interception. On the ground, he had 9 carries for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I just I'm I'm shocked with how bad Arch has been playing just cuz I feel like he's got the weapons to make plays both in the backfield and out wide. And it's I think the other big thing is the fact that a lot of us would say Texas is having a generational defense. Like that defense is insane. It's what kept him in the Ohio State game. It's what kind of bailed him out in this game with Arch being so unproductive in the passing game. So now we're at the point of, is Arch just really bad? Or is it the fact that it's year 3, but teams are finally getting to look at him and they're starting to pick up on bad tendencies early? He doesn't appear to be confident when throwing the ball. Most of his confidence looks like his when he's running the ball. But he's going to have to do a lot more than just running the ball to help them win out games in the SEC and the playoff potentially. So unless Sarkisian can figure out something to get him his confidence up and get him to be efficient throwing it, I don't know what's going to happen with this Texas team. It's looking rough. Maybe Arch is going to have to stay at senior year and maybe prove that he can be that guy because that's what it's starting to trend to. But that's if Texas wants to have him back. Because if I'm the coaching staff, I'm like, do I really want to give another year to this guy who, is a Manning? We've been talking highly of for 3 years now. And year 1 as the full time starter, this type of tape he puts out? I don't know. I do not know. But that's all I got for my week 3 reactions. I should be having my week 4 predictions up in a couple days. We got a couple good games to look at going into this week, so I'm excited to get into it. We got a couple conference plays opening up full time with the SEC, the ACC, Big Ten, so it's gonna be a lot of good matchups to talk about. A lot of early season things that can be going on. But I'm excited to dive in. We're now finally getting to the full heart of a lot of teams' schedules where we're going to find out who's good and who's not. But if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment on any thoughts, questions, things you like, things you didn't. And until next time, deuces.